We will be talking about the perspectives on the infrastructure in the Gaza and the West Bank. By Solaris, Christina, and Sarah. First, let me give a little introduction. First of all, what is infrastructure? Well, it is the basic physical and organizational structures and facilities needed for the operation of a society or enterprise. What's going on? Well, I'm glad you asked. Poor infrastructure has been going on for 70 years in Gaza and the West Bank. Mostly Gaza has been facing these infrastructure problems because of some history that will be explained later on. And now let's see the perspectives of these people.
Israel's offensive against Gaza continued for a long time, but it has been 8 years since Israel began to block the Gaza Strip. Since then, the public infrastructure had collapsed. Gaza organization published a report. According to the report, 1.8 million people in the region are often out of power, unable to drink water, and outdated cellular networks. At the same time, a new report from the Israeli group pointed out that Gaza's energy, water, and wastewater treatment systems are about to collapse and blame Israel. The Hamas ruler in Gaza decided to destroy Israel. However, the Office of the Coordinator of Government Activities in the Israeli territory, which manages the Israeli-Gaza border, did not respond to the request. Israel stated that its blockade was designed to prevent territories from obtaining materials to consolidate military positions, tunnels, excavate, and build rockets to launch in the Jewish state. I think the challenge for Israel is conflicts in Israel and Gaza continue to occur. Israel's use of lethal fire on Gaza protests face court challenge. Human rights organizations asked the Supreme Court to declare as unlawful any regulations that allow soldiers to open fire at unarmed civilians. This striking limits Israel's strength and actions. Palestinians chant slogans during a protest against the ongoing electricity crisis in Jabalia refugee camp in the northern Gaza Strip on January 12, 2017. This April 27, 2018, Palestinian protesters fought down from tear gas fire by Israeli troops after the burned tires near the fence during a protest at the Gaza Strip's border with Israel. Bombardments of Gaza Strip is having devastating effects.
Israel has restricted the movement of Palestinians in and out of Gaza for much longer than the past 10 years. Starting in the late 1980s with the eruption of the first Palestinian uprising, or Intifada, Israel began to impose restrictions by introducing a permit system that required Palestinians. Since 1993 in particular, Israel has used closure tactics on the Palestinian territories on a regular basis, at times barring any and all Palestinians in certain areas from moving, sometimes for months at a time. In 1995, Israel built an electronic fence and concrete wall around the Gaza Strip, facilitating a collapse in the intersection between the split Palestinian territories. A recent water agreement signed under the auspices of U.S. President Donald Trump's Middle East envoy in mid-July may actually cement Israel's control over water resources in the West Bank, experts say. The water agreement, which effectively increases the amount of water that the Palestinian Authority can buy from Israel, was inked in the context of the Red Dead Project, as it is commonly known, a plan to link the Red Sea, Dead Sea, and a desalination plant in the Jordanian port of Aqaba through a 200-kilometer pipeline. That $900 million Red Dead plan, sponsored by the World Bank and agreed upon in 2013, aims to boost water supplies for Israel, the Palestinians, and Jordan by diverting water from the Red Sea, turning some of it into fresh water, and pumping the excess from the desalination process into the Dead Sea, thereby replenishing its dwindling levels. Palestinians in the West Bank extract not more than 10% of the shared water resources due to Israeli restrictions on the development of Palestinian water infrastructure and its exploitation of the shared mountain aquifer. Palestinians maintain that the rights to the water on the banks of the River Jordan and the Dead Sea shores are being violated. When the Red Dead deal was signed in 2013, Palestinian environmental and human rights groups said that it did not address the damage to the West Bank eastern aquifer, one of the only water sources for West Bank Palestinians, which is rapidly depleting because of the shrinking Dead Sea. This picture shows how serious the water problem is in Palestine, and it shows a girl, getting water out of this truck thing. This shows how Israel destroyed water lines that hydrated Palestinian areas in the Jordan Valley. Here's a picture showing how the Palestinians were affected because the water pipes were broken down. The Gaza Strip has a big history with the UN. The United States has never tried to make the situation worse off from when they first put office in a different place than the Jews wanted. The problem is that the Jews wanted the capital in Jerusalem, but that they would give even less power to the Palestinians. The three main religions have kept fighting over time because they wanted Jerusalem to be totally just for them. All of them have endured so many hardships to get there, and now it's hard to stay united with so much conflict. Even movement restrictions imposed by Israel since the early 1900s and intensified in June 2007. United Nations Chief deeply is concerned with the Gaza's violence as the Security Council is having trouble keeping it under control, also between Palestinians and Israeli security forces that have left at least 15 people dead along the Gaza fence and has called on an independent investigation. Palestinians in Gaza are locked and denied free access to the remainder of the occupied Palestinian territory and the outside of the world. The UN Secretary has found that the blockade and the related restrictions contravene international humanitarian law as they target and impose hardships on the civilian population, affecting and penalizing them for acts they have not committed.
Okay. Major escalations of hostilities in the past years have resulted in extensive destruction and internal displacement. Speaking to reporters, UN-supported school in northern Gaza Secretary General appealed for unity in line with principles the Palestinian Liberation Organization, which includes rejecting violent terrorism and recognizing Israel's right to exist. The UN has been trying very hard to make the tension less serious, but with Palestinians keep trying to go through the border every time to try to pass Israel attack in a harsh manner, the numbers will reduce rapidly unless the UN fixes it quick. Eventually, the problem will have trouble to come to a decision while the society is crumbling. So this is to show how the Palestinians are rapidly reducing and how sad it's becoming. This is one of the attacks that is becoming to be led on to the Palestinians right now, and how they're trying to bring back the border. This is them about to go to war, and everybody's super sad and singing songs, I guess.
What is our solution? Well, we think that the Israelites should give more water access to the Palestinians because the water problem has been solved and it is being supported, but the Israelites just won't give water to the Palestinians. The Palestinians are merely getting 10% of the water that has been given to the Israelites. So the main conflict is that the Palestinians have worse infrastructure than the Israelites.